Hello, and welcome to 0 to 1K, growing your player base and making your first dollar. So I am Maria Burns-Ortiz, Executive Director of the Global Game Jam, where we run the world's largest game jam, the Global Game Jam, the world's largest student game jam, GGJ and Xsolla, and work year-round to support and grow game development ecosystems around the world. Every year, GGJ serves 40,000 game creators across 100 countries. And in 2026, we'll surpass 500,000 lifetime participants in the jam. This past January, we hit 100,000 games created over the lifetime of the Global Game Jam. And we know that many jammers continue working on those games post-jam. We hear every year from jammers who have taken their games from concept to commercialization, launching games, and starting studios. But as anyone who has been down that route or who's considering going down that route knows, having a good game is just the beginning. And we're here today to talk about what you need next: players and money, and how to get both from folks who have done just that. This webinar is in partnership with Xsolla, who we're thrilled to have back as a Global Game Jam headline sponsor. I think you all here are actually hearing that first. And Xsolla is a global commerce company with robust tools and services to help developers solve the inherent challenges of the video game industry. From indie to AAA, companies partner with Xsolla to help them fund, distribute, market, and monetize their games. The way our session's going to work today is it's run as a bit of a two-parter, I guess three-parter actually. I'm going to start by chatting with Berkeley Eganis, the Chief Marketing and Growth Officer at Xsolla, about what he's seen working with studios around the world. And then we'll hear from three incredible studios themselves about their experience and insights on this topic, followed by questions from you. I know a number of you have submitted questions when you registered, so we'll tackle those, as well as feel free to put your questions in the chat as we go, and we'll be pulling from there. Speaking of the chat, just as we jump in, we'd love to know where you're joining us from today. We had over 30 countries represented among our registrations. So please share where you're joining us from in the chat. I'm out of Minneapolis and excited to introduce our first speaker, who is joining us from Los Angeles. Berkeley is the Chief Marketing and Growth Officer at Xsolla, specializing in creating and marketing video game commerce solutions aimed at helping partners reach more players and earn more revenue around the world. He is a creator of successful partnerships, collaborations, and campaigns for brands and organizations aimed at elevating their awareness, perception, and experience in the global marketplace. Thank you so much for being here.
Of course. Thank you, Maria, and the whole Global Game Jam community. An amazing group of people, like you said, from 30 countries, but from all over the world. And we're big believers in the future of games, and games come from anywhere around the world. And we're really excited about not only wrapping up 2025, but what 2026, 2027 has in store for games. Really exciting time to be in the industry.
So, Berkeley, from your perspective at Xsolla, what is the hardest part for new indie devs once they have a game ready?
Once you're getting the game ready and you got past kind of that funding kind of conversation and getting figured out, and you got your roadmap, putting it together, is getting ready to launch a game and really building that community. We always talk about community a lot. It's not only just around game devs, but it's also with the consumers, with your players, and really building that community on the social platforms, the Discord channels, the Twitch streams, that if somebody's streaming your game, of what's going on, is to really think about it as part of your go to launch process, your build process. You're thinking about building this amazing creative game, but then how do you market that? That needs to start from day one. Like, what's your strategy? Don't build the biggest like misconception I would say that a lot of folks have is like, let's go build a game and then go market it. You need to be doing that in parallel. Somebody on your team, and maybe 3, 4, 5 of you, but somebody is thinking about that. Like, how are we going to go to market? How are we going to get feedback from the community? How are we going to do game keys distribution? How are we going to get that out there into the space and getting people to give feedback on the game as they're seeing and like what's going on? So that's really one of the biggest things, misperceptions for people to have, but to really be thinking about the marketing from day one as you go forward.
we're talking about two different but very related concepts today, right? Growing your first, players, and then bringing in your money. And what is a realistic way? We have a lot of the teams that, especially that are coming out of Global Game Jam, that are on this call, I know, are smaller indie teams. What is advice that you give to them to build that first player base without a huge budget?
Yeah, and just be smart, test everything, be efficient. Really, everybody's like, let's go global. Keep it simple. That whole KISS, keep it simple, stupid acronym that a lot of us use and probably have in our offices somewhere of what's going on. Really use that and live by that mantra of keeping things simple. Try things out. Go to a couple countries first that are more simplistic from a payments and an authorization perspective and compliance that you have. Really take a look at that. Go there first, then start growing your game into different markets and testing it, because you'll have some data that you'll hear from the community that'll be like, hey, here's what's going on. And we're hearing, this Southeast Asia is just popping off for us. And, Vietnam is a specific country as an example. We're having a lot of the community and people are starting to write content and do screen captures and really doing their own content-led creativity and putting that out there. Use that insight, then go use that as a traffic gate. Really think where you want to go, be specific, don't overcomplicate it. There are multiple monetization strategies out there as you're building your game, free to play, premium, subscriptions, models. I love founders packs. I really do. And those are from the early game and launching it. Put out a custom founders pack, give some incentives to a small group of the community, say 50 to 100 people, give them a special game key, a pack, some incentives for the game, and really let them test it, give you feedback, and then they'll share on social media. It's organic. Everybody loves the socials, the TikToks, the Instagrams, the Facebooks, WeChat in China and other places in Asia, as well as sharing those stories. But that's the biggest piece of advice, is just keep it simple, start small, and then you'll quickly build up.
And similar approach, probably, I'm going to guess, with the monetization piece, right? Once you've got some players, now how do you start generating revenue?
Right. It's try different things. I say A/B test tactics, A/B test times when you want to do a promotion. If you're a free-to-play game, as an example, so you need to be having a continuous content slate that's coming out, offers that are coming out, new skins, new gem offers, bundle packs. You're going to be debating on what to do there. Really start testing things and then double down on the ones that you're seeing that blip on the chart. We always love the hockey stick that goes up moment. But you gain that insight, double down, cut the things that very, very quickly that aren't generating the return that you're expecting. Try something different. You may get down to it and see a Tuesday, Thursday sequence where people are really making purchases and really engaging with your game. Make offers on Tuesday, Thursdays next week. Try those things and get that out there, and be smart about it. Again, come back to start simple, but try multiple avenues. You don't have to invest tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars to go run ad campaigns that you see and you're like, oh, I want to do playable ads. I want to do different things. Keep it simple, and offer those. Create that small community of VIPs that you have. Do a founders pack. And then you'll start seeing that replicate. Once you've done that, and then you go continual nurture, what we like to say from a lead generation perspective, but with your consumers, to nurture them, provide different offers, provide values, communicate with them, and then you'll start to see the growth. They'll start talking. The community will start talking amongst themselves, and then you'll see that start to build and build and build on top of each other. Which is great. And that's what you want to see, is that kind of steam being built up, and then more and more players coming to your game.
What are some common mistakes that you see indies make, especially in this early phase, whether that's around, whether that is around growing that player base, whether it's around monetizing? What are some of the mistakes that you see and you wish that you could tell them, because this is your opportunity, not to make them, and how not to make them?
Yeah, waiting on marketing is probably the biggest. I'm a little biased. I'm a marketing guy. I'm a data guy, so both my answers are going to be marketing and data. into this, but really starting from the very beginning, telling those stories, even if it's just an idea, you have sketches, start sharing that information, start sharing what's going on, market that game now, find out where you're seeing from the data points of where people are responding from, what type of games they're playing. Are they, you're building a free to play game, but these, and you're like, hey, ask questions about what do you think about subscriptions? What do you think about season passes and bundle packs and things like that, and getting feedback and then ignoring the response. Like, use those data points and those learnings that you have and do something about it. Go double down because you're seeing a repetitive thing that comes out there and say, hey, we want weekly offers. Don't ignore that and do bi-weekly or monthly. Do weekly. Use the data points that you're going to find that diamond in the rough that's going to help you be successful later on. Double down on that item that you see. If you ignore the data because you're just like, hey, that's a beautiful game, the community is wrong, that's a mistake. You need to think about what your community is doing and what they're building to and what they want to have from a game. Our communities, particularly in any space, they play multiple games. They play 4, 5, 6. You look at mobile games and you probably have a screen full of games. You go into, your Steam Deck, you go into your PC, and what you're seeing, different places like that, you're playing games, you're playing multiple games of what's going on. You're going to see that crossover between the different genres, and you'll know that from the data points that you'll see in the research that you'll be doing. Use that information, make a decision based on what you're doing and a learning, and then go execute against that, and you'll win.
And today we're talking about getting those first players and that first revenue, but what and how do you think studios should think about long-term growth, right? Like, the very beginning is great, but hopefully you're building the sustainable companies. How do you think about that?
Sure. Everybody's like, I need users, I need players. UA is getting more and more and more expensive. Really be getting smart, dialing in on what's working, the social platforms, the communities, sometimes it's events, be part of things like the Global Game Jam, be it the other programs that are out there for meetups and program. There's a bunch of partners out there that will showcase games. Get involved in those game showcases and what's going on to be able to share that. But the biggest thing is to focus when you get those, as you're leading up that first 500, focus on retaining them, focus on giving more value and more opportunities, particularly free to play or your subscription model or other games like that, or the monetization strategies that you have. Focus on the retention. You'll take that 500 to the first 1,000, which is what we're talking about here today. Next thing, that 1,000 will multiply to 5 to 10 to 25,000. Is the hope and the dream as you go into it on the way up to 100K. But really do a good job of listening to your VIPs and retain those users by giving them the value that they're continuously asking for based on their purchase decisions. People vote with their wallets and what purchases they're making, and then what they're saying in the communities. Be responsive to that, even into the subreddits that are what's going on. Make sure you're addressing that and communicating with those users so you can retain them. It's so much easier to increase monetization on a retained user than it is to go find a new one, acquire them, and then start that process all over. It's basic 101 going into it. Really do a good job retaining those, and you'll be built for long-term success.
And this is going to kind of come across as a fake final thought from you, because we are going to bring you back for the Q&A. But is there kind of a closing thought, piece of advice, something you would like to just wish people would know before we bring on the studios and hear from them too?
Sure. You don't need huge budgets to have a successful game. We've seen games be successful in $50,000, and they're just dialed in and they're smart from a monetization and user acquisition and getting that to come into it. It doesn't take millions and millions of dollars to go into it. You get your first game out there. If you're an indie developer, be smart about it. Be very efficient. Marketing guys do more with less. I hear that all the time, even from a B2B to B2C perspective. But really look at it that perspective, and then you get into version 2. You get into your second game. You get into your third game. You're going to learn from those experiences and putting that out there. But just be smart about it. Think about it. Ask for help. This community, there's no community, I think, on the planet that is more about helping everybody rise together. We all want more games. We need more games to go into it. Nobody plays just one game. And they want multiple games, particularly from the indies. We've been saying this for a bit as some of these big AAAs have taken delays and things like that. Players around the world want more indie games. They want the underdog. We want to see those folks be successful. And next thing you know, it could be the next Fortnite, the next Fall Guys, the next Call of Duty. Who knows? It could be the next Candy Crush, Pokemon Go going into it. All it takes is one influencer. It takes one flash in the pan, one opportunity that you take advantage of, and your game is flying off the charts. And people, can't get it fast enough. That's the dream that we all have. But even, games that get in there and they make, $100,000, $1 million, that's a phenomenal story to tell. We need more games. That's my thing. That's my biggest thing. And just to encourage people, bring great ideas onto the table. There's a lot of people here that want to help. This is a great community with Global Game Jam, so there's a lot of expertise around there. Ask your friends who are developing another game, another type of game, even another genre that you're not even in. Ask questions, talk to people. This community is here to help each other out. And it's really exciting time to see what's coming forward. So we can't wait to see, as we go to some of these trade shows in different places and showcases, what the next games are going to be. It's a super exciting time.
Thank you so much. And we will hear from you again in a minute. But next, I'm going to bring up 3 folks who are doing just that, who are building those games that we're looking at. We have AJ Folko, who is the CEO of Tasty Games. We have Natasha Skolt, who is the CEO of MyTale. And then we have Bakir Omarov, who is CEO of Cool Bears. So I'm going to bring them all here to join us. Hello, everyone. Hey, I see. First of all, thank you so much for being here. I see we have questions coming in the chat. And so we will also ask and encourage folks to be sharing more questions there. But I'm going to start jumping off. I mean, from what Berkeley has talked about and what he's seeing across studios around the world to hearing from you all from studios around the world. My first thing for each of you, and maybe Natasha, I will start with you. But all of you, it's going to be the same first question. Please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you, your studio, where you're based, and tell us the name of the first game that you've made money from, even if you didn't break even on it. But what's the first game that you monetized? So, Natasha, we'll start with you.
Sure. So hi, everyone, and thank you, Maria, and the rest of the Global Game Jam team for having me. My name is Natasha. I'm from Finland, and we have a fully independent studio here in Turku with 25 employees for past 8 years. So I've been in the industry for about 15 years or so, and I had I went through all sorts of, not just type of companies, meaning the sizes and so on, including corporate, but also indie side, especially for the past 8 years, and running an indie studio, which is fully financially steady and self-sufficient, and also self-publishing. So it's possible to do it. But besides that, I'm also an academic. I'm just now finishing my doctorate on interactive storytelling with quantum computing, and overall teaching game design and digital art and interactive experiences for also past 15 plus years. So I have this sort of like both things in my like what I do professionally, but my full-time day job is, of course, running my own studio. And the thing is, with I've been working on so many games, especially I'm from Finland, so that means that a lot of free-to-play mobile games, especially like majority of my, initial career path was, of course, in mobile. But I'm a PC and console gamer my whole life, and this is where I also wanted to go to PC. So this is where I shifted. But the first game, I would say, with the biggest, not necessarily with the biggest amount of income, but the biggest, because it's free to play game, but the biggest number of players is actually on PC, and it has been launched as a fully indie solo. Like I think two of us were just working on it on Steam, and it's called Bottom of the Well, and it's narrative-driven game as everything else we do. But that was so many moons ago that it's one of those reminiscences. And but when it comes to the money making, I would say most of the games that we did for our in collaboration co-development with our partners, because our studio does both B2B co-development as well as our own IPs, but we very much focus on our own IP development and licensing. And this is exactly what with Willowguard, that was just launched now on Steam in April this year. We have so much going on besides the digital product as a game on Steam. So I'm more than happy, of course, to discuss more about the business strategies and everything else. And that has been already quite a success for us. So that's me.
And we will get into those strategies, I know, in a minute, because people are excited to hear about that. AJ, how about you? Tell us about yourself, where you're from, and all of those fun
Sure. Well, hello, everyone. Thanks for having me here, Maria. I am AJ Fulco. I am an independent game developer based out of Cleveland, Ohio. I'm the founder and owner of Tasty Games LLC, a game studio focused on making games you can sink your teeth into. And my team and I are spread across the Midwest region of the United States. We're a fully remote team. We don't have an office. We build games entirely from the comfort of our own homes. And our first monetized game is Mole Maiden, which came out last Friday. It's a 2D action adventure game about a mole girl who leaves home to become a pro wrestler. So, yeah, that's me.
And Bakir, last but certainly not least, tell us about yourself and Cool Bears.
Yeah, hi guys. Thanks for the invitation and having me here. I'm Bakir Omarov. I am from Azerbaijan. It's a tiny country, but we started our studio in 2018. It's Cool Bears Studio. Mainly, we are working on mobile projects and web projects. My first game was released, I think, in university times. I don't exactly remember date, but it was the last degree of university. And I still remember how many money I got from this game. It was $6,500. It was exclusive contract for web games, and it was a very big number for a student. And I'm still proud of my girlfriend. She's my wife right now. And after it, we decided to launch our studio. We both are co-founder in our studio because success from first game motivated both of us. And I want to say that this game was designed for mobile, but I tried to sell exclusive rights for web, and we earned first money from web. And after it, we released on mobile, and we got more than 10 million players. We got big YouTubers who played our game. It's Boxing Physics. And after years, we made a sequel of this game and done it with publisher and earn more and more money. But this first $6,500 is we have in our hearts because it's emotions when we started.
I kind of imagine you with like the check, like Scrooge McDuck and the first penny that he had, you know, kind of one of those things. But yeah. Well, and you know, I guess I will just start with you since, you know, we don't want you to be last every time. So first question to you is, you know, looking back, what's one early misstep that you made? Especially when you're talking about attracting players, you guys have obviously been very successful in it. Were there any early missteps that you made in attracting players? And then what did you do to correct that?
Yeah, of course. Big mistake was that we didn't deeply understand how we can monetize our gamers, because it was a free-to-play game. It was our first game, and I personally, I did not accept this big release, this big audience, and we just released game on mobile and got 1 million players in first month, and we have zero in-app purchase in our game. And I tried several weeks to adding Google ads and earning some money from mobile, but it was late because we got our peak time in Google featuring. But it was a good, valuable emotions and knowledge for us that you have to prepare your game before you're releasing it, even your live ops updates. So right now in our studio, we are preparing 1 year live ops updates for each release. We must understand in which steps we will add events, new content, and what kind of A/B tests in shop we should do. Because our first mistake in our first game, it did us this knowledge.
Natasha, AJ, have either of you made any mistakes, early missteps that you wish you hadn't and want to save other people from?
Sure. I mean, what person hasn't?
Honesty.
I mean,
I'm glad. I appreciate the honesty from everyone here.
well, I mean, it's just comes with the territory. Nobody knows what they're doing when they're first starting doing this kind of stuff. You learn a lot of things from experience. When we started advertising Mole Maiden on social media, I brought in somebody who I felt like could do the job better than me. And that was a bit of a long interview process, but I found a candidate that really did some awesome stuff. And so really that first couple of months that we worked together, that was us kind of like feeding the algorithm and learning how it worked. Trying to see what type of content stuck with different audiences. Because before then, I was just kind of like posting things haphazardly and wondering why the heck I wasn't getting any likes or anything like that. So understanding that there is a method to what is seemingly a bunch of madness and trying to target that. But then the other thing is setting aside a small budget of some kind to do paid ads and letting the paid ads kind of do the heavy lifting for you. Leading up to release, we did a lot of paid ads, and that was like our largest spike in activity because we figured out what kind of content worked the best. We figured out which ones to kind of like streamline, and then TikTok just kind of like handled the rest after that. So that would be like the first thing I do. And then the second thing is try to figure out how you can get people to stay up to date on your game as frictionless as possible and as personally as possible. So things like mailing lists are very important to have like a direct line to your audience. If you're just accumulating Steam wish lists, everyone goes on about Steam wish lists, but they're really not that important. The bigger thing is more of a direct line, like building a Discord server or having like a mailing list, or even just having a way for people to buy the game, like having like a Xsolla page, for example. Oh, we're doing a little plug here. I worked with Xsolla. That's why I bring that up. But having something there that isn't like the 5 steps that it takes to get to your Steam page, so you can have that purchase be made as frictionless as possible and as easier for the end user as possible. That is exponentially important. And I'll leave it at that, and I'll let Natasha go.
As mentioned, I'm an old woman, so I have a lot of scar tissues to and it's not just from my mistakes, just watching people do mistakes and not listening always. So that's another thing. Mistakes. I mean, I'm just gonna maybe use the latest one in a sense of the latest release, so to say. Although I don't know how much like there. So basically it goes like this when it comes to the social media, because the thing is that social media is absolute chaos, and that's like that's just something that is sure algorithms and so on, but at the same time when you have a niche game which is also having experimental more design, not belonging, and it's not copy paste of something else, and it's PC again, so it's not something that is like, it's not mobile, it's not something that might be, and it's not necessarily streaming kind of like let's say good game for streaming because it's a narrative driven game, so spoilers and so on, and it can be so it's very tricky what and how to handle there. So in my opinion, one of the things that we made mistake on in the beginning, like as throughout, because we only worked on this game 2.5 years compared to some other games before and so on, is that we didn't focus on a specific channels, which we did later. So basically, pick 2. That's basically what was advised in one moment to us, and we're like, you know what? Yeah, because we are self-publishing, so that means again you handle everything. So that means also that you really need to pick your battles in a different way. And so that was one thing that in the beginning we were like, oh, to try it and to be out. But at the same time, you really need to know where your people are, like where is your really target audience. And I know this is something that everyone says, but in practice for us with the niche game, that really meant that we really need to understand what is the real behavior of our people. So to give you an example of how we got to the success with it briefly, is that so ads, absolutely paid ads, like again, not just I mean, even that we do PC games, we treat our games as live ops and everything else. So basically Willow Guard now has 18 months of content upwards in plan, everything. So it's a service, it's not just like one thing as kind of like we launch and now we wait. So we treat it as such. And same thing goes with so ads. So knowing again our audience, we know that, for example, our audience has ad blockers everywhere. So where do you put ads, paid ads, like in that sense? So knowing that, for example, we basically we did the calculated risk in a sense that we didn't go to Google ads and so on for the game launch and so on. We went to, for example, Reddit ads, which did marvelous stuff for us. We did other kind of ads. So basically where our people actually are, and depending what kind of paid ads. So, but you need to test, of course, and testing doesn't have to be expensive. That's another thing that people think that. So basically, put the money on the things that work, because otherwise, like that's one thing that's to be aware. But you have to test, and that is something that doesn't have to be costly at all. But that's another, of course, topic to discuss about the ads and how to arrange that. But that's kind of the thing that we made it that like, oh, everywhere, all at once. But that's not really the thing. So it really had to really dive deeper into this sort of psyche of our players because of the type of the game that we have. So that's why, for example, I'm big fan of early access. We couldn't do that with our game. It didn't make sense, for example, and so forth. So that's sort of, but as I said, some mistakes became a really good things for us later on, and especially picking your battles in that sense. And as I said, using the freshest one from all the games.
Well, and Natasha, you talked about not just mistakes you've made, but mistakes that you see other developers make, new developers make. What are some of those common mistakes, whether we're talking about monetization or attracting initial players? And this will be for all of you, and not only, I think the one thing we always want to focus on too is not only what are the mistakes, but like, what are ways that people can avoid them? What are better approaches? Not just don't do this.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to say so many controversial stuff now. I apologize in advance. So one first thing that is quite often said by everyone is that sort of like, you have to, of course you have a focus, like, of course, like what focus comes. But the point is that as a team, again, as a studio, I cannot understand, and maybe because and that's one thing that worked so well for us because we did this differently from others, is that we don't put eggs in one basket, meaning we don't put everything we do in one game. Never. We always have multiple projects going on for our own IPs. Even now with the Willow Guard, even that it just launched in April, as mentioned, there is constant updates, not just patches of bugs. We are talking about new content, everything else, new modes even opening up now, like with all the updates. So we are treating it as a live service of when you think about mobile games, but this is a premium PC game. So that's one thing. Second thing, we immediately expanded to cross-media. So we're having now, we just launched comics. We are working with a partner with a graphic novel. We are working on the board game. We have so much merch already, but also more merch coming. So the point is that the presence from different media to just on board, because this is narrative driven game. We build, it's all about world building. So basically, depends where someone finds us or finds the IP as such. It can connect to some other media as well. So it doesn't have to be just games, but everything cross promotes everything. And I'm a big believer in this sort of like diversifying income from everything on multiple levels, even if it's a one product, because this is one product, so to say, like it's one IP, it's one thing. But besides that, we also have other products. We have other games, but we also work on the products with our partners, with publishers on their own IPs and so on. We work with, so because that's the thing, if you want to be really independent, this is the controversial stuff that I always say, because we are financially profitable with 25 people in Finland, which is expensive country. So like I'm just saying like this, so it's possible. But the point is, if you really want to be independent, you cannot depend on one thing, either one product or one publisher or one anything. You have to be able to also have this ability to pivot depending, because it's not even about, let's say, us and a publisher or us as a self-publishing. It's about market. It's about everything else that's around. There's so many moving parts that you can't control. But at least what we can control is, again, this sort of like the choices that we make when it comes to our products, how we manage stuff, how our teamwork is going, and so on. So these are the things we can affect that makes it possible for us to make things work, not just for the team, but also for our players. Because at the end of the day, we make stuff for our players, not for ourselves. so it's all that balancing around. Of course, it's a bit more. It takes time to learn to hold the ropes, but it's. Let me tell you this way: it's not more complicated than working in a corporate, or more difficult than working in corporate, like very strict regime. Actually, it's quite easier in many ways. Even the something that it's more work. No, if you have to deal with certain toxicity in the place and so on. There is way more energy being used on that than actual creative stuff that we want to focus on. So loving the indie kind of way, and this sort of freedom to pivot and make decisions together, depending again on all these moving parts that we can't do anything about. So yeah.
Either of the two of you, mistakes that you've seen people make that you wish you could now
sure,
use that knowledge to save them?
Yeah, I think a big mistake that I've seen a lot of people make is spending money on the wrong things and expecting different answers. So kind of going back to what Natasha was talking about earlier about putting all your eggs in one basket, you do want to kind of come at this from multiple different angles, but you want to know where you have to strategically know where you're spending your money in order to kind of get the kind of results that you're looking for. So for example, TikTok is a great way to build a community and to like get buzz going around. But if you run TikTok ads and expect to see a conversion of sales, you are not going to see that with TikTok. It just doesn't happen with TikTok. The best way to see a conversion of ads to sales is to do things on YouTube or Google, or I think Facebook too, but not a lot of people from my generation, unfortunately, use Facebook that much anymore. So, that wasn't really my audience. So I didn't really bother with Google ads or anything. I don't think even bothered with Instagram ads either, because that's just wasn't where my audience was. Most of my audience from the personas that we built. And if you guys don't know what personas are, they're basically fake people that are basically caricatures of your ideal customer for your product. Based off the market research that we did, most of my personas were on TikTok or YouTube. So that's where we, targeted our money. And then the other thing is not a lot of people use Google Analytics or at least people who are just starting off use Google Analytics to track where you're seeing your your click-throughs and your sales being made. I have like a Google analytics pixel on my Xsolla page. I have it on my TikTok ads. I have it on my YouTube ads and everything. I have it on every single thing that I did that I spent money on, because I can learn exactly who is clicking on my game. And then when I go for like round 2 of advertising, I know I need to target this kind of person. I need to target that kind of person. I need to spend more money here. I need to spend less money there, so that I can see where I can see growth in the fields that I want to have grown. So the short answer is data. Get as much data as you possibly can, and get it by any means necessary, because that's how you're going to spend your money effectively, and you're not just throwing dollar bills into the void.
Oops. So, I also want to add that our company right now is related only on the data. For example, we have more than 10 icons. We are making voting internally in studio and getting top 3 icons that we believe that they are beautiful. They will gonna work. But after A/B testing, we see that our audience, Google Play users, Apple Store users, are not attractive to top 3 icons that we believe that they will be. So guys, don't be more emotional when you're choosing it, because in the end of the day, you have to make money from the game, and your users, your players have to love your game. And it's not about your decisions, it's about your audience decision. And you can get this decision from audience only from data. We are testing everything in our game, every minute, every levels. And after, for example, last game is puzzle game, and we made more than 20 prototypes. We tested 20 prototypes. We got most played, high retention prototype. And we also tested more than 5 styles of visual styles. It was 2D, it was 3D, it was simple, it was casual. And we stopped on the most valuable art for our game. And right now we know that we have a good prototype of the game that audience loved, and we have good art that we can monetize, and also do UA campaign in lowest rates for our budget. That's why in our studio right now, we don't make any serious decisions. We are just giving vision of the game. We are making gameplay features. We are making some art testings, and then our audience from our data deciding in which path we should go. So prepare yourself. If you are making free-to-play game, you have to rely on your data, and you have to understand analytics very well, because it's most important part of the free-to-play games.
I think, Natasha, I think that part about not getting
this is a good response.
tied to it emotionally.
Add something here.
I just both of you.
I just wanted to add, in the sense, because I know that all 3 of us here are very data. I mean, numbers don't numbers can, but we are all like data. Like that's the thing. I like, this isn't like talk numbers to me. That's kind of how we have in the team. Like, oh, give me some numbers. No, but the thing is that that's what we, you know, like, if you if you want to grow, you really have to understand, to learn, like learning the number. And that doesn't necessarily mean you have to, because what I wanted to add is that, where do you even start with that, especially if you are starting out? Like, how do you even get to learn with the data? Try to get advice from others, like reach out to other devs, reach out to devs in the local ecosystem, if nothing else. Find mentors. There's so many different mentoring programs. I mean, to this day, like, I have mentors from the industry as well, and no matter that I'm mentoring, and other way around. Like, this is so don't be afraid to ask when starting to learn to what to look at, because the gaming data or gamers data, there are so many layers there that it's not just about analytics necessarily. You need to read through it really to get, as it was already said, this sort of like where your audience is, how do they behave, like this persona. That's exactly what we need to really dive in, and data will tell you that. But you need to know what numbers to look, otherwise it's just a mess. And someone to help you out with it, because unfortunately, as someone who's also teaching at university, I can tell you, no university in Finland, at least, is teaching you how to do game data. Like they will teach you different kind of data analysis, but at least not in that sort of sense. So it comes with, especially because we are very responsive to data as game developers. That's how we, support the players and everything else. So if you don't know where to start, because I guess there's quite many young developers in the audience, that's why I'm kind of like, let's start by asking for help. That might be a good place. At least that's one just comment I wanted to give.
Sure, and I'll put in my my 2 cents, and then we can move on, Maria, to the next thing.
No.
But the other thing that I wanted to say was, when you launch, you don't need to go international right away, right? So I had a lot of people come up to me as I was releasing. I was like, how did you translate your Steam page? And I was like, I didn't, because I don't have enough of a foothold in Japan or Europe to justify that. Most of my ads are hitting the United States and Canada, like North America region. So I don't have to necessarily worry about spending money to try and appeal to an audience over there that I can't even communicate with half the time. I think that you can always do what I like to refer to as a soft launch in your home region and gain data and a lot of like those analytics and everything, and then use that to help you go international gradually over time. Try to like, or even I've seen people do like soft launches in regions that aren't their home region, and like New Zealand or other English speaking languages or regions, and gaining data from that, and then going back and then launching in the United States. So, there's other ways to like get it out there without having to like Natasha said, put all our eggs in one basket. You can trickle your way into the public space. Also, someone said Mole Maiden looks awesome. Thank you. You're an awesome person.
So no worries. And I'm going to bring Berkeley back because we're going to go to your questions, both your questions that you've been putting here in the chat, as well as the questions that you had submitted perhaps when you registered. And one of them, I saw a version of it in the chat, and I saw a couple of versions of it, multiple versions of it in the registration questions for folks who sent them in ahead of time. And I think one of the questions has been about, not just bringing those crucial first 1,000 players, but kind of common user experience mistakes that studios make that damage that retention, right? Even if it's short-term revenue. And I know someone else had asked a question about earlier about seeing that spike, but then what do you do next? So talking about that, either from your individual perspectives or Berkeley, from what you've seen across Xsolla and all the companies you've worked with, what are those mistakes that people make, especially very early on? I'm going to let you guys all free for all out who goes.
Okay.
Do you want me to start?
Go.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the biggest mistakes I've seen, we haven't been doing that. I said we have niche and we know exactly kind of what, but one of the biggest mistakes is that, big boys maybe can afford that, but especially as a, let's say, indie studio or a smaller mid-sized studio, be really clear of what your game is. Like, don't, because the spike can come that people expected something else, and then you didn't deliver what they were expecting or what you were promised, or whatever kind of ads you made. Like, again, I don't know what communications you did. It didn't reflect to the product that you have, and then the crash happens. So that's one of the biggest mistakes that I've seen, like first kind of like from first-hand experience as well in previous studios, but also kind of like something that I still see for whatever reason it's still happening, that people don't understand. They sort of like don't do, like, be true to your product and be transparent of what actually, let's say, your game is, no matter what it is, but don't, like, be true to it. That's one thing.
On the subject of that, something that I've always kind of lived by is that I don't like to sell my own game. I always like to have someone else sell my game for me. And I come to that conclusion because I've always found when I'm at like trade shows or whatever, I always like seeing what other people are making, and I get really excited and I start going around and I start telling people, about other games that I played. And I've always found that it's easier to communicate or pitch an idea that isn't yours personally, which is why when I brought on my marketer, I made sure that they were someone who was like a gamer themselves, so they understood like the lingo, but they were removed from the development process, so that this way they could communicate something that was less biased or less personal. That's just something that I found makes it easier to pitch ideas to people without having to be bogged down with like, because like someone will say like, oh, it's like this. And it's like, no, it's like that because I thought it was like this because I designed it based off of this, but someone else reads it a different way. So being removed from your game to market it, I found helps it in some way.
Also, I want to add something about free-to-play games.
Mhm.
If you see some good retention on day one, you must understand that it's because you have a good core loop and your players loved it. But after it, you have to have a good meta layer of missions, of daily challenges, and etc. for your day 7 retention, because day 7 retention is motivation for your players staying 7 days. And day 30 retention is the most of the hard ones because you have to add a social layer where players are interacting with each other, interacting with your community, and they are want to return to your game. And it's very hard work, I know, but you have to focus firstly on day one and make it most perfect. I would say for our games, we are polishing first 1 hour of the game, and we are investing most of time to polishing first hour of the game. And if we got a good KPIs for first of our end game and first day 1 retention, then we will add new meta layers and etc. for day 7, day 30, and etc. days. And if you are doing free-to-play games and you are struggling with UX decisions, I recommend you just copy biggest games because they have a biggest budgets and they did a many A/B testing. If they are using a big bundle that's coming from second level when you are returning to main page of game, that's because they tested it. That's because their data shows that you have to put this bundle exactly that in that time. And if you don't know in which level, after which level you should put your bundle, just put where big companies put it, because they have budgets, they have many dozens of A/B testing, and they know what they are doing. So it's I think in free-to-play games, it's not a bad thing to copy a little bit from UX decisions of big company, because we're also doing it if you don't have such a big budgets.
Wow, all of those are spot on. I do like the idea of also playing other games, that even the big ones, to learn from like what's going on and see the mechanic of what's happening, and then getting in there, subscribe to their newsletters and get into their social feeds, see what's going on. There is nothing wrong with shamelessly borrowing a good idea, particularly in this industry. I do stand by that. This is one of the industries that there is a lot of borrowing, there's a lot of copying, there's a lot of emulating on, monetization practices, marketing aspects of that as well, and be able to do that. So it's use the data, look at your not your competition, but look at your colleagues in the industry, what's going into. We're all fighting for thumbs. We used to say eyeballs in TV and movies and butts and seats in theaters. Now we're talking thumbs and fingers and things that we're trying from a game perspective, and having people play your game. But again, people are playing multiple games. So learn from that, learn from those experiences. I think everybody is spot on. Just looking at questions.
And you guys chatted a little bit about this and kind of rolling into this, but this idea of, with so many different games on the market, with so many different things out there, how do you promote your game in what feels like an overwhelming jungle sometimes, especially to folks who are launching their first game?
I think as someone who did just launch his first game, the most important thing you can do is be realistic with your expectations. Because a lot of people, when you start making games, and I'm totally a part of this, is you're doing this between a lot of different things. You're juggling a lot of different things. You have a full-time job, or you're a full-time student, or you're not working on your game full-time. And a lot of what you hear in the indie space is like the success stories, the outliers, like, oh, I've run my own business now, or I'm Super Meat Boy and I just became an overnight success or whatever. And a lot of people fall into this negative headspace where they're constantly like worried about being that right away. And the truth of the matter is that you won't necessarily become self-sustaining on your first game, and it'll probably take you 3 or 4 different games. So try to set smaller numbers so that every milestone that you do accomplish, you feel proud of yourself and you don't feel like you've failed in some way. Because if you keep going at it, you can only go up. If you stop, that's when you're going to go down. So I think that's a good way to, mentally keep yourself motivated in some way.
May I go next and continue, especially on the PC side? Because one thing that I want you to remember, that wish lists, especially for Steam, are even more important when it's launched. And let me explain why. This is beautiful stuff of numbers that I'm currently working with. So this is so basically, as first of all, Steam algorithm wants to show the games more and pushing more games that are actually launched than the ones that are upcoming. So that's just first fact to share. I don't know, is that something that is known, but it's the way it is. So that's one thing. So Steam will want to push games even more to more eyeballs as it's launched. And people, the point is that these wish lists are actually better converting than the initial wish lists numbers you might have, because that's the thing. You don't know how much of the percent, like that's complete, like you don't know what's actual going to be retention there, like what is the conversion going to be there. But this is because when someone wish lists basically now the game, and look at this, in a month or so we will have autumn sale, then it's winter sale, so your game will get way higher chance to sell. So the point is that use Steam's actually a thing works really well, but learning how to ride these waves, that's the thing that so don't underestimate the wish lists and things that come post-launch. That's the only thing I wanted to add on what was said already. So
I think that's a great comment from Natasha too on the Steam wish list. We also talk about creating pre-orders on your own platform, on your own website. Diversify. Like we talk about these mobile games, get it on Apple, get it on Google. It's a requirement, obviously, right? From the App Store and things like that. Same thing, PC games, get them on Steam. Get it out there, build up the wish list, double down on that community, have a dialogue of what's going on, but offer game keys online as well. And you're going to, again, A/B test, see where you're getting the most bang for your buck, particularly if you're like a premium game, to make that purchase and be able to do that, and you keep more of the revenue, but then you're building upon these wish lists. It's tough when you're new. AJ is probably finding out literally right now this weekend. He probably had a fun weekend looking at data.
He's not alone. He's not alone. We're all in this together. And that's the thing, asking around, that's the best part. And as you said, in mobile, same goes actually in PC. Like, even that your game is on Steam, put it on Humble Bundle, put it on other places, put it wherever, be part of these different things because you don't know where your people will find you. That's the whole point of diversifying and not having all the eggs again in one basket. That's in any case, that should never be the case. So yeah.
Well said.
And I know we're coming up on time, so I'm gonna let you have pretty much the last word. What's your take on wading through all of the noise and getting your game noticed when there's so many different, honestly, incredible games out there too, right?
I want
Be true
just
to
add
yourself.
something.
Yeah, go for it.
I want to say all developers that just relax. You cannot reinvent the bicycle. It's not possible reinvent wheel. Just relax and do what you love. Because it's core gameplay. You have to polish your core gameplay with your love, with your ambitions, with your motivation. And after it, just start to showing to everyone you found. Because I'm personally, because we're making casual games, I'm showing our prototypes to my mother. If she cannot pass first 10 levels, we failed. Because it's our one of our core audience, and she played in her life 12 games, and all of them made by our studio. She is the best candidate to test our games because she don't know any UX, any games. And if she can pass our 10 games, it's an indicator for us that we have good onboarding, we have good UI, we can attract her attention to our tutorial, and she can pass our levels. So just relax, make with love your core gameplay, and start testing with your colleagues, with your even with your teachers if you're a student, and etc. Just push it, share it in TikTok, share it in Instagram. Just relax, guys. If you fail, you fail. Everyone fails. We have more than 50 prototypes, and 98% failed. It's okay for us. And even big companies are failing. Amazon failed with $1 billion free-to-play projects. So it's okay for everyone to be failed. Just relax.
Well, and as we close, I want, one of the things, Berkeley, you kind of said very early on was about, there's room for more. It's not a zero-sum game, right? Like there's lots of games. People don't just buy one game. They don't have one game on their PC or their phone or whatever that is. And so I think that's one of the things too, just hearing from all of you, is there's room for everybody to succeed. There's room for lots of success. It's not one winner will win all of games. And so I wanted to just thank all of you so much for joining us, to all of our speakers and all of our attendees. And, we really appreciate having all of you here, having Xsolla as a partner, having all of your these studio leaders here with us. So thank you all so much. For more on Global Game Jam, including upcoming live streams, partner jams, the 2026 Global Game Jam, and more, you can visit globalgamejam.org to stay up to date on all things GGJ. For more on Xsolla and everything they offer, visit xsolla.com. And we will have, in the coming months, more live streams with Xsolla as a partner. So we hope all of you have taken something from today, and that all of you come back in the future. So thanks, everyone.
Good job, everyone. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.